Yeah, I think it's starting the recording. Okay, good. So yeah, so what I've done is I've created a Teams in the folder in the OneDrive. I've created a folder and I will be uploading all my files there. So I'll just give you the link and just try to ask you whether you have access to these or not. Just check. I'm just pasting this in the chat window. Let's check.
Okay.
Just see if you have access. If not, then you can request access. Let me see. I will approve it.
Okay.
Or you can just share your mail ID.
Okay, sure. Let me see.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just add your mail ID in this. So here I'm put in the things day by day content I will be gonna put in this. So at least
Okay.
okay, so what I'm gonna do is for today, we'll just start with a quick brief of what we have covered yesterday. So yesterday we started with I walked you through the entire content which is there as part of the certification for getting GIAC certified or GCIH. So I mentioned about the key main topics that are being covered. So it includes your intrusion analysis, incident handling, information gathering. Then you also have scanning, enumeration, vulnerability identification, vulnerability exploitation, infrastructure endpoint attacks, network attacks, denial of service, web application attacks. Then you have maintenance, maintaining the access aspects about it, and then how you're able to cover your tracks, tunneling aspects. Then, I also mentioned you there would be a topic which would be asking about your warm spots and what, right? Then what we did is we started with your intrusion analysis and incident handling. So there I explained what is intrusion analysis, how do you basically, so there we saw the different stages as part of my my entire intrusion analysis. So there we understood that the four key phases which are part includes your preparation phase, your detection analysis, the containment, eradication, and the recovery phase, right? So we saw that, and then we also went ahead in, let me just share my screen, right? And then we went ahead understanding each of these different stages, right? So while we were understanding each of these different stages, we understood that, okay, each of these processes, which includes your preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and the lessons learned, has different aspects, right? So preparation that we understood, how do you build a team? What kind of required skill sets that you have, you need to have when you want to get your teams available. So there we saw different types of skill sets might be required from the log review perspective, detection rule creation perspective, network forensics perspective, endpoint forensics perspective, malware analysis perspective, scripting perspective, right? We saw different skill sets would be required. Then we also went ahead into the understanding the different other operation model that we will have to set up with respect to defining the mission objectives. We might have to have some extended hours available, right? And the teams, the distributed teams kind of a setup available. Then budget being a very important factor, right? So we understood that. Then within that, we saw the different types of models, like we have a full time response team, we have a partially outsourced response team, right? Which is also like you have, the business critical versus non-business critical teams. Then we have the fully outsourced response team, right? So we saw them. Then we also saw how do you also need to interact with a lot of your internal teams. Internal teams includes your management teams, your HR teams, legal, IT, different teams, your IT security teams, your IT teams, risk management, BCM teams, right? So these are part of, again, important aspect. And while you are doing this, you also try to collect a lot of organizational information, identify the critical assets, identifying the blind spots, creating the network diagrams and the other DFD diagrams and all. Then you also try to, identify the entire asset management systems, right? So different solutions that could help you in the classification, labeling aspects, right? Policies, standards, processes, how you will be trying to define in this, right? Then we also went ahead, how do you start responding to an incident? So, we mentioned that, where you require to have a kind of a presence on the on-site or, right at the point of in the, things for on-site presence versus remote location first presence, how organizations have been distributed over and what kind of presence, is important for them to be there. Then again, from an escalation plan perspective, you need to have a proper escalation plan to escalate. You have to have an escalation matrix, right? Then you also have, the communications and the internal team communications happening, right, between the teams, right? So how you need to share information with your leadership teams, and how do you create that entire communication matrix, whom to interact with, how do you interact with them, right? So that is something that we also spent on understanding, and then the external communications aspects, which includes your, the other external teams, external response teams, the law enforcement teams, the regulator teams, regulators that you might have to work with, uh, the owners or the customers you might have to start working with, right? So we saw that as well. Then what kind of other components or other requirements you might have? So one could be with respect to a system accesses. You might have to have on during the working hours as well as off working hours presence, right? So those kind of aspects, from an access perspective, you think. Then you need to keep on capturing the details and the notes as you are going through, right? So we saw that as well. Then we also saw different aspects from the hardware details, software details that you need to start capturing as part of it, right? So what are these different aspects that you need to capture that can start helping you, right? So we saw that as well. So once the preparation phase got over, we also said that then we moved to the identification phase, and then we saw definitions with respect to what is an event, what is a security incident, what is an alert, and different categories of alerts, right? So some of these alerts could be true positive, true negative, false positives, and false negatives, right? Then we also saw that what are the different sources, incident sources that you have. So within that, we said that, okay, the incident sources could be many. So you have other, it could be through the routers, it could be through the firewalls, perimeter firewalls, the host firewalls, the antiviruses, right? So it could be through the endpoint detection response tool aspects also. These are all primarily that will help you to identify these incidents, right? So the sources where exactly the incidents are getting, could be tracked in or could be identified, right? So we saw that. Then how do you start collecting the additional informations, with respect to these incident responses? So we saw that. Then I showed you some couple of examples, and how you try to investigate things in Windows, right? So a couple of commands, couple of places we saw how we able to do that. And then once we have investigated, we have tried to identify, then we went into the entire aspect of containment, right? So there we said that, okay, now we have identified it. Now we also try to contain. So containment, where we saw the different aspects about, how you basically go ahead and contain them. So different solutions are out there, which I listed and just shared with you some of the solutions. Then one of the important aspect was the incident criticality levels and the criticality severity matrix, right? So how you represent them, how do you define them, and some examples we saw for each of them, right? What kind of different types of containment strategies that you can think of, right? So we saw different types of containment strategies, such as like, uh, you require to include the business owner. You cannot have the same strategy for all types of, incidents that you will be having. At the same time, we require to have proper evidences at a point in time, right? So that's a very much important. That is also very much important. Then primarily from the eradication perspective, once you have identified anyhow, you'll start eradicating this, right? So the eradication phase, we saw that how you are able to eradicate the entire and remove, right? So with respect to your, the malwares that you might have detected or the account which has been compromised, how do you basically try to take those necessary steps to eradicate the compromise that has happened? Then once you have also try to take the necessary steps, eradicate it, then do you also spend some time in understanding how do you go ahead into the recovery aspects and the lessons learned. So I also shared with you a template for a lessons learned. So lessons learned, it could be a very simple template, just like the one which we use normally. I have shown, put in here a template. So you have the uh, a number and incidence risk. It's a kind of a risk register, or you using that you can take all this list of incidents that you have. What is the kind of lesson learned for each of them? What is the next steps or management action that you can put in, and who would be doing that, right? So if it is something that normally this is what we do for each of these incidents that has been reported in case if there is a lesson learned, and what is the next action if it is something that would be done, then who would be able to do it. So that is the kind of a tracker that you create, and then as part of a periodic review you keep a track of it, whether all the lessons learned or the action items that has been listed down against each of these lessons learned are being taken care. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, this is one template which I've also shared with you, so you can use it. Okay. So I thought of just quickly going through the topics once again, so that for you it doesn't become like a hassle. You can just go ahead and it gets like a revised for you as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is, normally I do it for all my sessions. I have a quick quiz for you. So I'm just going to put it in the chat window, and I think you can take maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That way you would be able to complete it. So let me just put it in the chat window. You try it, and then we'll just go to the solutions also. So at least you'll get a fair idea about it.
Okay.
Okay. Just check if you're able to access this.
So another thing, I tried to access the folder, but I think it's not giving me. It's
I
showing me I
think
don't have.
because it's in the SharePoint, right? So you might not be able to do it. No worries. I mean, that I will take care of. Yeah, I'll have to add
Yeah,
your
this file as well, like this file as well, I'm not able to access the link.
not able to access.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute. You're not able to download this?
Now let me check. No.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, then it's difficult. Just give me a minute. I will send you over email, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, I've sent it. I think you should be getting on your.
me a moment, it's not yet. What's the size of file?
It's very small file, yeah, hardly KBs. I'll give you.
That's what I'm checking, like why it was not there in the email yet. Okay, yeah, I got it.
Let me see what's the size in the email.
No, I got it. It's just 37 KB.
38 KB. Yeah, that is on the KB. Okay, just try it. I mean, and
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah.
and I'll just discuss the solutions also.
Understanding the specific details about user change. Okay, let user space change. Which are the hologram? Okay, your terms. Yep. In which of the following fields do mostly like Education. During the following phases, it will be most likely occur to have which command will most likely start. Process list, process ID. Okay. I think it will be GIAC. Yeah, I think it's done.
Okay, good.
And there
So
is no 12th question.
I think there is no real question. In between, actually, I've removed some questions which I
Okay.
felt was not required or not discussed. So I would remove some few ones just to avoid any confusion. One or two
Okay, do
questions
you
I've
want me to
removed it,
share
but yeah.
yours?
Yeah. Okay.
And do you want me to
So
share
what
the
you do,
file or
just
should I
reply back
check?
here. Just reply it back onto my machine. I'll just have a look at check in.
Okay. Okay, let me do save as downloads. Underscore. Done. I have sent it.
Okay. Okay. So I think what we'll do is we'll get started with today, the agenda. So today what we're going to do is we'll take a very interesting topic, which is more on information gathering, right? Now, information gathering is again very important aspect because whenever you will be getting a lot of this information on connecting, so what are some of the things that we would be looking into in this, right? So we will look into some of the techniques, how you would be able to collect the information. We will try to perform voice lookups, DNS queries. Then we will also understand the concepts or war dialing, war driving aspects, and we'll see some tools and technologies which are useful in this entire information gathering, right? Now, as I was mentioning, your information gathering is something where a lot of information or details needs to be start collected, right? Now it is becomes very much important that while you are collecting this information, you also are not trying to handle or create any kind of any issues with respect to privacy issues and all, right? So you might have to understand the confidentiality, the integrity, availability of the data, and primarily when we are trying to collect all this information, the required permission has to be taken very clearly, okay? Because otherwise, that sometimes what happens is while you are collecting this information, you end up uh, creating a lot of issues for for the target segments, and there might be the owners, whether it is from a system or whether it's for a specific user, they will start raising issues or start raising concerns with respect to these aspects, right? So there are, though we know that there is a lot of passive methods of collecting these kind of information, but there are certain kind of OSINT is primarily your open source intelligence solutions which are there, right? So you can use a lot of these things, but what happens is, again, having a kind of as part of an investigation, when you are working as an investigator or an incident handler, you'll also have to take care of some of these aspects, when it comes to the confidentiality of the nature of data that you're collecting, the integrity or availability of these systems, right? So that's a very important aspect. Okay. Now, these are some of the things that we will look into. Now, to start with, how do we basically get started? Okay. One of the very important ways or one of the important, area from where we get a lot of information is from your public websites, right? So the website that is freely available, which is there in the public domain and all, is where we can get a lot of, you know, uh, start getting a lot of this information, right? Now, primarily, whenever you think from an attacker perspective, right? So how you will start thinking from an attacker perspective is the attacker will normally try to target these public websites, so there is a lot of information which is there on the internet, or, so let's say, for example, I give you, you want to identify the email address of few people. So normally on your websites, you see a lot of times that if you want to reach out, maybe there is a partner in an organization, a managing director, or very senior people in the organizations. So what they do is they normally you will find their email address. They will mention their email addresses to, so let's say that if you want more information, please reach out to us, So the intention of sharing the email address was maybe because of sharing some kind of reaching out for increasing the sales and all. But what happens is when you start going through the more different types of pages in that website, you see you can try to identify some kind of a pattern, like for example, if it's first name dot last name, so, or let's say for example, first name and then first letter of the last name. So somewhere you get to see a lot of there's a, sometimes you start getting a lot of this information from the public websites also. So normally attackers try to rely on this kind of websites as a first way how they can start getting some of these valuable information about the entity that they might want to target, right? So there's a lot of sensitive information that you would be able to see that, like for example, there might be freely documents that would be downloadable, right? Some of these documents, as I mentioned, has these email addresses or the contact numbers, right? So which has a lot of these sensitive information, right, for the employees or for the people. Then you also have sometimes job openings, right? So when these job postings are there, in these job postings also there is a lot of things, information. Like for example, you have sometimes in this job postings, you sometimes mention the details of the systems which are being used and all, right? So a person should have these kind experience in these all systems where bank is or my organization is using these kind of infrastructure components and all. So the attackers primarily spend a good amount of time in understanding to these. And then you see that there is another way that they do is basically they try to identify the vendors, third parties which are there. Sometimes what happens is the end client might not be the entity that I'm targeting, I might not be able to compromise them directly. So what I do is I try to identify their vendors or clients who are more vulnerable. Because what happens is these vendors or clients might be, if I'm able to go through them, they might be having access to the companies through via them. So rather than going a direct way of connecting or you're reaching out or compromising them, I found a workaround through the third party vendors, right? So that is one way you can see that a lot of these, through these, a lot of attackers will rely on a lot of these different types of information for getting, right? So for example, in one of the job posting which I had seen, so they were primarily having a lot of these system related information about the overall organization, what were the kind of systems that they were having. So let me, so they primarily had what are the systems that they were using, what are some of the things that they require a person to know on. So that pretty much gives you a bare idea about, what is the system, what is the uh, kind of tools, what are the kind of technologies that are being used, right? So something like this, for example, they mention you in the as part of a JD that this is the kind of a technology stack that we have. So a person should be having a good understanding of them. So Windows Server, these Active Directories, 365 technologies, or even if it is not being used currently by the teams, at least you get to know that what is something that they are trying to build on them, so kind of. Now you will see that in each of the systems, primarily whenever the attacker will looks into these systems, one thing that they know is what are the vulnerabilities which are there in these each of these applications or systems. Right now, some of these applications they know is very difficult to get into. They might not be vulnerable to attacks, but then there might be some kind of applications which are not very standard, or there is a very high vulnerability that could be there. Uh, I can basically exploit that vulnerability, so that is in a very technical term. We say that exploiting the vulnerabilities so that we can get access, right? So let's say, for example, we might be using PDF files, or we have some kind of file-based data sharing that is happening. So that could be one way where I could try to compromise that. Right? So that is one thing that you can see. Now, one another thing where organizations try to mitigate the kind of risk is, or to avoid any kind of uh, risk which is there, is by having a proper labels, right? Like for example, you see labels which are the classification labels which are there in for each of the documents in the organization, like for example, confidential or highly confidential, you know, or I say something which is in public, okay, or something which is internal. Like different labels of classifications are there, which I can do, or I can also make it as personal, something which I want to use it for my personal use. So personal is very similar to public, so that I can keep it, or that personal is something I will want to keep it separate because again, it is very personal to me. Right? So that could be uh, also used. So you can see that in this example, how I can basically have a kind of a classifications defined. Okay. Now, different tools could be useful so that you can start getting an in-depth understanding about different types of websites. One such kind of a tool is a Netcraft tool. So let me just show it to you. Right. So Netcraft is a website where you can get a lot of these in-depth details about various websites. You can see that you can book a demo in this and you can get a lot of these details. But what it does is you can see that it's a cybercrime detection and disruption platform. You can start using it. It has a lot of these cybercrime detection, threat intelligence available within it. So how it happens is if you see these resources in this dimensions, so you can just create a login. You can add a website in this, what is it? And then you can basically get the details about what is the underlying technology that is being used, and the overall details with respect to the secret socket layers, which is the SSL layers, the certificates and all details is what Netcraft provides. So you can see that the platform there is a cybercrime detection, threat intelligence, disruption and takedowns, and transparency. So threat intelligence and cybercrime detection are the two modules which differentiates Netcraft. So you can just click on White Netcraft. It tells you what are some of the things that Netcraft is providing as a key offering. And a lot of the top clients you'll find and uses Netcraft.
Okay.
So you can just explore that also. So I'll give you this link in the chat window. Later, once you get time, you can use that. You can just explore that. So this is one example of Netcraft. You can see here what I've done is in this. Sorry. So in this example, you can see that uh, what is this description about this website. It gives you that what is the site rank. Then it also tells you about the underlying technology, the SSL details, which is there. You will be telling you what is the hosting history, all those kind of details that Netcraft is able to give you, right? So it's a McGraw-Hill website. Within that, the description that it tells you about it. Right? So that is one tool that is very popular, which you can use, Netcraft. Then similarly, you have another solution that you can use for from a harvesting perspective if you want to identify a lot of some of these information. So you can also use the harvester website. So let me just show it to you. So it's an open source tool. It's a tool that primarily you can use it. So this is the GitHub page for it. So in the harvester, you can see that it basically tells you penetration testing that you want to do it. And it has multiple data sources. Like for example, when you come down, you can see that what are the modules that it supports. So Bing is one, Baidu is one search engine that it supports, so it has other of the search engines included in it. So you can see Yahoo search engine, you have Interex, GitHub codes, the Go. So it's a different types of search engines are which are the modules, the passive modules which are included in this. And here what you can do is it basically gives you the details about it, so what kind of details with respect to it will be harvesting it from these different sources and it will be collecting. It will be basically identifying what kind of potential, the victim, as potential victims, what kind of things the attacker would be trying to get in this, whether they would be able to get their email addresses and all, right? So you can see more documentation on that. You can just check that. So it will give you those details. It basically helps you to, helps you to understand what kind of, in case uh, phishing attack is being needs to be launched in. So what are some of these areas of vulnerabilities where the attacker might be looking into? So that is one thing that it does. You can have a look at it. There are certain keys which are there. You can see that there is an API which is there, and the installation you can use it. So this is again one
Okay.
tool, quite popular.
So this is
Then
like this is using Python script, right?
see here you want can install it, so you can just see that there is a uh, details would be there in this.
Okay, I'll check that.
Yeah. So you have the Python scripts which are there, So the documentation, necessary documentations are available here as well. You can install this and then you can just try it out. Then like this, you also have some tools like, for example, Symantec has their own. You can just close this. So one other tool which is useful as part of it is your Symantec, the Symantec DAM tool, where it also, as part of your internet security threat report, so it also helps in identifying the internet security threats. So you can check this also. Let me just open up the document. It's a kind of an article which Symantec published in. So it tells you about with respect to the web attacks, how much web attacks, how they have been implemented. So these are for your the Symantec clients, and how the numbers have been there. It's a kind of good visualization with respect to there's some of their clients, how the entire industry has been facing these kind of issues. Another thing that you can use it to get is using a wget command, right? So wget primarily, supposedly, if you want to understand, so if you want to get content from the website, right, from gits, and also we try to get using the wget get commands also. So using that also sometimes we are able to use it. Then there are certain websites which you can use, like for example, there is an httrack. So normally httrack will be useful for, there are some of these third-party tools and mirror websites also that helps. So you have the httrack website copier. So that is also you can use. Again, there are multiple packages for Windows, Linux machines, and all that could be useful. Uh, then you also have something which is uh, fresh web suction. So this web suction is primarily also there, it has primarily the ways, it's a third party toggle again, but it can, to mirror the websites. And it's a curious application. So you have any website use it. So you can use that also. These are mirror websites. You can use it to mirror your websites that you can use.
Yeah, okay. So to mirror any website, right?
Yeah, sorry. You want the URLs? I can just paste it in the chat window. You just can look at this. So you have the
Okay.
httrack, you have the web. Next is we also have social media websites. So as you know that, just like your public websites, social media is also one great source of information for attackers to start getting information about actual people. In fact, a lot of times you'll see that account compromises, social media account compromises keeps on happening, right? So now that's the reason one of the other aspect is, whether how would you can restrict people from accessing social media accounts from their organizations, because account compromises can happen and then people can start getting access to your, machines and all. So normally you'll see that organizations might have their own social media, internal social media, social media websites, which is more like in the form of, Facebook for organizations and these kind of things. They have their own organizational logins that they normally create, so that that basically again mitigate the risk for account compromises happening, right? So that is one thing that they have their own social media accounts in organizations perspective, but this primarily helps you, so even your communications and everything is then secured across your entire secured socket layer. So they're using that, you are able to mitigate your risk, right? So you can use some of these third-party tools to monitor these multiple social media accounts also. There are certain times you can have your APIs keys or application processing configured. That would be help you to get this data, right? So as you know, that's a lot of these common social media websites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr. a lot of these social media accounts. You can see one that is one thing. Similarly, you also get a kind of a profile of the people. When you start going through their profiles, when you start going through their entire what the social media account, you start to get good information about this person. Like for example, um, if the person is very happy, if the emotional connect that the person is happening, so accordingly you try to target these people based on those aspects. So like for example, a person who is maybe might had a breakup or might have a, so that they might person might be vulnerable to some kind of a counseling or these kind of things, or a person has been just married, so I can start providing him some kind of packages and all. So based on the profile, looking at the profiles, that how to get to them. That the same kind of strategy might not work for everyone. You basically tailor those, the attacks in this way. Right. So for example, uh, things that you might not even realize, but you fall prey to. Like for example, based on the kind of content that you might be looking, or the kind of, the people that you might be connecting with, you get a fair idea about the people, you know. And this was one strategy, if you remember, during Facebook's, 2017 or 16, where there was a big compromise with Facebook, account of Facebook profiles were being compromised. And, now almost like millions of profiles of, Facebook profiles were being accessed by a company called Cambridge Analytica. And they were accordingly had, done targeted campaigns, so that you can be sent specific messages and then you get influenced by them, right? So these are some of the same things that your attackers also do. And you have seen that, how you basically, nowadays you have seen this is a trend that, your accounts get hacked, your accounts get compromised, and then you reach out to your near ones to asking for money for helping you. And this is where you are, that you definitely get a kind of a support even before people realizing that their account has been compromised, and it is getting misused. You might have already done the harm, and you might have before the account gets locked, you might have already received the money and those kind of things. So these kind of things, social media is a very critical aspect. So uh, these aspects primarily you can give. So one thing that you can do is, like for example, if you, I'm not sure whether you have tried this in Twitter, so if you, for example, if you can go to the search bar and just try with your, about the GPS coordinates and all. So sometimes what you can get is also the tweets or the related tweets about that location. So the tweets which are generating from a specific location within a 2 kilometer radius, you get to know. So when you get to know the tweets, you also get to know the people, who are primarily generating those tweets. So this way you also are able to identify, what kind of, where are the people exactly located. And once you get that, you can have targeting campaigns, right? So there are ways which, yeah, we might not be aware of, but these are some things which are some of the vulnerabilities which gets access or compromised by the attackers.
Yeah. So, so do you know any website to monitor Twitter account? Like example, previously, it was Netter Analyzer something. So, if you have a particular user's account, right, like all the feeds will be, like you will be able to see in a single, like a notification type.
Yeah, this is one website you can use this. So pro.twitter.com is the website. In fact, there was a website, tweetdeck.twitter.com. Let me just open my Google. This. So this TweetDeck by Twitter primarily, if you see, it is also owned by Twitter only, but it does a lot of these features. So it will help you to monitor specific user tweets or, any kind of a notifications. All of this is something that you will be able to get in there. So you can see that what's new in the tweet tag, timeline of all the tweets and all. So this is something that you can use it. Also, it gives you
So
a
this
kind of,
this is an open
yeah.
source, right? Like generally, like okay.
This
Yeah.
is, yeah, Twitter, TweetDeck.Twitter. You can basically add, runs on Chrome OS. So you need to have a Chrome OS for, since it's there in the Chrome web store, that's the reason. You can I just searched it. So these are primary TweetDeck that you can see, right? So this is a beta version which is there. So it's a extension from Twitter only, the pro.twitter.com. So you can use it for getting all these details. This one is for premium one. This is not free, but I think the extension is free.
But we have to log in to the Twitter, then only
Yes,
like
yes,
it's
yes.
kind of
Correct. No, this is the one which is a bit, the paid one. But then you also have some of the other websites, like for example, 1 million tweets map. So this primarily gives you some details, So this you can use this tool that will tell you all this information. So here you can see the analytics and how many hashtags are coming in. Based on that, you can also get the location of this. This is free one.
okay.
This is an open source. You can use it. I'll give you the link. So you can see that, like for example, once you click on that, you get further division. You can keep on clicking on it. It keeps on extending. Right. So you can see that who is mentioning what kind of tweets. You can see there is sentiment also getting captured, positive, neutral, or undefined sentiments. So that is also getting captured for each of them. This is one website you can check, or there is one more website which is, let me just check that website. This is an omniscience.com where you can also use the tweet map. There's some problem with this website. Okay, so you can see this also, and then you can use a heat map, or you want to have a point map. Right, so you can get this kind of details from there. These are the top hashtags which are there, so you get to know.
Okay.
This is also one thing that you can use. These are all open source ones which are there. And then you can have some of these third-party tools which can help you to aggregate these data across the various social media platforms. Like, so one example that I will close this. So one social media website that you have is the Hootsuite. So Hootsuite primarily can help you to aggregate this data from multiple. So you can start your free trials and you can see that it will be get based on your Facebook, Instagrams. It can create from multiple of these websites. You can see. social media managers, right? Learning campaign management, target analytics. Just like this, you also have a brandwatch.com. Brandwatch.com also you can just check which are the kind of websites. Again, multiple websites it covers. So social media management is the area and it basically helps you to manage your social media accounts. One smart social inbox, followed by user customizable inbox. You can see across the multiple social media accounts, you can basically get in consolidated. So these are the ones you can see in Meta, Instagram, Tumblr, and all. So these are all your data sources, LinkedIn's. You can just explore all. It gives you a list of all the social media accounts. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, X, Salesforce, Facebook Messenger, Google Business Profile, YouTube.
Okay.
There is a one, sorry, there's a free one. There's a one free
No, no, I'm
website.
saying okay.
Yeah, this is a free
Mm-hmm.
one. So you have a pushpin web. So this pushpin modules are primarily used. So you can use this. You have the Docker installations. You can have it. It's a community free open source space that you can use it. So it gets installed on your Docker's containers and then you can start using it. So there are steps which are there. Not going into that details, but yeah, I'll give you the links. You can always go later and just export them as well. I'll give you these websites. We also have one more, which is your Greenwood or social media social mapper. So Greenwood's social mapper is also there. It tries to correlate the profiles using based on facial recognition. Right, so you can see facial recognition to correlate the social media profiles. So you can also, they can also use it as a popular social media sites to target, the names and pictures from different people and then try to create a single. So these are the social media web platforms that supports LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest. Uh, then you have Twitter, Google Plus, Instagram, right? All these are the ones which couple of use cases. So you can create fake social media profiles to friend targets, trick the user in disclosing the vouchers. So you can see this is primarily being used for penetration testers and red teamers. Yeah, you can see all these social media accounts that it supports. Now, if you want to do a quick set search using, across your social media profiles to see if you have a specific social account, you can also use something which is your checkusernames.com. Is I think you might be aware of. So checkusernames.com primarily you can just search your name and you'll get the results, which all the accounts that you have, right? So you can see this. I'll let it get loaded, I think.
Yeah, like when I think it takes some time to get it.
It takes some time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you use it. I'll just paste this links in the chat window so that at least later you can go and have it access also. Yeah, I think it's not working. Okay. No, I mean, sometimes it is maybe it might have been moved to a new location as well, possible. Right?
Yeah, okay. Notice, yeah.
Okay. Now, what we'll do is next is we will try to understand that how you go and defend against some of these public websites, social media searching, and how you can also use search engines for getting your or information gathering. Okay. So I'll take a quick pause here, and we can take a small break now. After this, what we'll do is I will show you, how what are the different ways how you basically go ahead. Okay. So this is good, right? I mean, as of now, are you fine?
Yes, yeah, it's good. Yes. There
So
is a
let's
lot
take a
of
quick 10.
there is a lot of content, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of content. I mean, that's the thing, this primarily will help you just as a setting some of these things to know about it or make you aware about it. Okay, so let's take a
Yeah,
quick
go ahead.
15 minutes break and then come back. I think we'll just continue from there. Then.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Okay, welcome back. Yeah,
Welcome back.
sorry, actually. Yeah, okay. I think we'll get started then. Let me just, I've just kept the screen like that, just. So,
Yeah, no
yeah,
worries. Yeah.
yes, yes. Now, one way how we can define all our public websites and the social media websites is primarily we can limit the information that we are trying to provide to these platforms, right? So one thing that you can use while we are using these social media websites and public websites, so we should ensure that we are not diverging too much information. And sometimes what happens is even we keep on sharing our social media website details, the login details and all, sometimes in Twitter post, or sometimes even your things, you keep on sharing these details to others so that they can start accessing some of these details. So, and see, normally what happens is if you see these, there might be different levels of authentications which might be there, but what happens is if you see like the patterns, password, if one of the accounts gets compromised. So one of my classmates the other day was asking me, so his account got compromised, and then so what happened is this person was had reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd accepted the request. And then suddenly he started typing. He posted me something on in Chinese, and I was a bit shocked. Why he's typing in Chinese. I didn't even realize that his account is compromised. Then I just mentioned that that I don't understand Chinese. Please type in English. So the next day when the next session happened, he said that sort of that you might have seen that something. Actually, it's not me. Someone has hacked into my profile, and I'm not aware that how it got compromised. But don't respond anything and report and block him, right? So that was some of the things that. So normally, you see that these kind of things is very common now these days, where social media platforms accounts gets compromised. Even not only for us, there are sort of public celebrities and all. So they understand, because one of the key things that you can see is these the credentials that we normally use. It's not that we have a separate credential manager to manage, and then we primarily try to use the same credential across. So that also creates a lot of these things, right? So that's one of the thing. One of the key things that you can start doing is by ensuring that not disclosing too much information, or not having the same kind of passwords across all the accounts. And even if you are having it, then ensure that there is at least 2 to 3 levels of authentications that could be done. So that can help you to avoid your account getting. Now, how you can start using these search engines for information gathering, right? Now, search engines, as you know, like starts helping providing you a lot of these additional informations, right? That you can start using, right? So, a lot of times we don't actually use the search engines to its fullest capacity, because we even don't understand, how to use. Like, for example, uh, you know, we have, let's say, for example, our company website. Right, and this company website is there in my social media account, right? So it is giving you some kind of a indexable search engine we can have, where you can see that it will try to capture some of these informations and would be able to index it against, and you can start getting. So normally search engines tries to index these content constantly, so that it can give you relevant results based on the search hits that you would be doing. And, some of these common websites that, like Google, Bing, Yahoo, Baidu, and all, right? So they primarily, have these kind of, the different types of content indexing that will be useful for getting this. Now, if you know that, there are different ways how you can optimize your searches, right? There are different types of operators that you can use. Like for some of these operators that you can use is, like, for example, you can use a plus sign before a keyword. Like for example, if you want to search for a keyword on, you know, let's say you want to search for, and this fraud. Okay. So let's say, for example, you want to search fraud. So what you do is you can use plus fraud, right? So plus fraud will ensure that the results that you are getting should have this contain this word fraud. Okay. And then supposedly if you're using this minus fraud, right? So then it will show that all the results that you're looking for will should not contain the word. So you should subtract the word, fraud. Then similarly, if you want any specific word or phrase, like for example, containing something, like for example, I want something like mm, engineering, right? So star engineering, when I type in, so this engineering can have anything before that, right? So it will give you those results. Or let's say, for example, if you want to get a cache versions, right? So from the from the cache memory, you want to get something. So you can just include the word keyword cache. So cache will give you the results from the cache. Now, another thing, like for example, very specifically you want to search, a phrase, so you can use like, for example, I want to use fraud specifically. So all my search results should be having this fraud specifically. It should be there. Or let's say if I want to have a phrase, so I want to have like, uh, let's say certified fraud investigator, right? This is a keyword that I want to have. So I can use or I can use this in a double quotes that will give me those things. Or sometimes, if you want to limit the search to a specific search website, like for example, I want the website to be in my, like organization, like for example, Microsoft.com. So I can have this in Microsoft.com. I can give a site name. So the results should be identified in that specific website. This is Microsoft.com. Similarly, if I want to search in the website's title, right? So we can have a keyword which is in title. So in title will help me to search in only the results which will be there in the titles, the web page title, which will be should be having this, right? So like for example, I want something from my university, like in my search website, I want IIMs. Okay, so from there, I want the results. So then I can just have the in title, or for example, in the URL also, like in my, I want to search in my URL under my careers page, right? So there I can use the in URL careers page, right? Or let's say, for example, if I want, so I can just show you some of these, that would be much easier. So here I can just add a plus and use a fraud, right? So you can see that all the results which are there, it should contain the keyword fraud, right? So wire fraud, everything is plus fraud. Then similarly, if you don't want the fraud to be there in this, okay? So I want all results. You can see that it will be having so many results, right? So it's reason it says that you need to exclude. Choose any kind of word should not have this keyword, right? So did not fetch any documents. Then you want specifically engineering, right? So you can just use a star engineering, right? So you can see engineering words, you will see all the words which are engineering or anything. Or let's say, for example, uh, you want anything, something ing, star ing, okay? So anything which will be containing the word, results will start having this word. Or for example, you have uh, ending those kind of endings, right? Like for example, table. So different things you can get in what different types of table it can be happening. Then if you want across specific or phrase. Like for example, you have the certified fraud investigator. So include this phrase. So you can see that certified fraud investigation, the results that you would be getting should be including this entire phrase. In this specific site you want to check, so you can mention, I want this specific site results. Right, so Microsoft.com, that would be the site. You can see the results will come and all results will come from Microsoft.com. Right, so that way. Similarly, you can have the in the titles and specific thing. Like so for example, in my title, I want India. Right, so in your titles, you will be finding India. The results will be having titles will have India. Similarly, if you want, specifically in the URL to have certain keywords, like for example, the web pages, I want careers pages.
Yeah.
So you can say IBM careers or Mantel careers, okay, careers, right? Different careers pages you'll start getting more careers, UNESCO careers, and all. Then similarly in the link perspective, if you want to look for something like, for example, I am, you want to find out link for I am, so that's I am Indo, I am Ahmedabad, the links would be specifically for I ams. So you can see I am cat also because it has the keyword I am. Then specific file types if you want, like you can use it. So like for example, file type, it's like PDF if you want, right? So all the file types that will be showing will be specifically only search for PDF files. So it will be not in this it is showing, but yeah, sometimes. Or let's say, for example, if you want to search within the web pages content, right? So keywords, that is also something that you can do. So you can use the in text. In the text, you want to word search for a word engineering. Then you have any types of keywords, right? So you can also use keywords based searching. Like for example, you want to search uh, Pakistan. So and is a keyword that you can use. You can use or as a keyword. So it's a different of these keywords. You can use it for understanding some of these aspects. Right. So these are different keywords based. Successful, basically you are trying to fine tune your entire search results. So rather than keeping it very generic, you are trying to use these keywords or the operators that will help you in fine tuning your search results. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to understand a list of all of this, there's a good website that you can use, which is a Google hacking database. You can try using this. So this Google hacking database is a good resource that you can use for all the search, the results that you can use here. So you can see vulnerable servers is the author who has written it. Some of these databases which are there. So you have the Google hacking, shell clothes and all. You can try doing this Google hacking database. There's other databases, shell codes and all. You can see some of these shell codes exploit DB will be there. So you can use this. It gives a good amount of things. You have used Google hacking database. Now, one more thing, as these are some examples of the search query engine query examples which are there. I'm just kept in. So, like for example, these are all examples, some things from your, the website, the Google Hacking Database that comes in. So I just showed it. Yeah. Now, how you can also use the deleted content, right? So there is something called as a Wayback Machine. If you know, this Wayback Machine primarily contains these website snapshots over a period of time. So if you see this website, Wayback Machine, you can use it and you can, want to view how a website has been changing throughout these years, right? So it can start giving you some insightful patterns about it also. It also helps you to, get some kind of a details about uh, any kind of information, what was being removed, latest versions of those websites and all. So, it is, if this is something that is there, which is there in the public database, you can see that how these websites have been changed. Like, for example, Hinton. So this is Amazon.com. So over a period
So
of
no, so this will show how these website changed like from last from since past couple of days. Like what are all the changes done on these websites?
So it basically tells you dating back, sometimes it goes back very detailed. So you can see that how it is showing across the years, right? So from 2004 onwards, is showing the stats. So you can see, click on this, it shows these details. The archives is, if this is of 2005, this is of 2000, right? So you can click on this and you can go for that specific dates, right? So it keeps a track of those entire things, the website at a point in time. Sometimes it could be very detailed also. You can go further. You can see 93,683 captures have been done. So those many captures are available from 98 to 2024. Okay, so all this time, so way back to 1998, how it used to be. You can just check an Amazon website how it used to be maybe.
Understood. Okay. Wayback Machine. Okay, this one I was not aware actually.
Yeah, this is also good where there are a lot of websites which you can see. So when you go back to Wayback Machine, so you can just search with the website that you're looking for. Let's say maybe those websites, very old websites which are there, maybe Yahoo. So you know that Yahoo has been existing since long. So you can just click on Yahoo and you can see that how many captures have been done from 95 it has done. So we can check now this is the current website, but 95 how it used to be. You can click on that and then you can see way back 96 how it used to look like. You can check any specific day. Maybe these are the days, right? So snapshots has been taken for these days. Then you can check 6 snapshots have been there. Yeah, see it is so old. And then you have the latest ones that you can check how Yahoo looks like now. Yeah, maybe there's some website problem with the website. Yeah. So like this, you can use it. There are even tools available to get notifications when the website content has been updated. Like for example, we have a website like a digital web monitor. Let me just. So the digital web monitor, you can use it. So this is primarily a Chrome extension. So it will tell you if a specific website that you want to monitor, if there is any content changes that is happening. So it can send you an email. stating that there is something that has changed. You can see that it will monitor the web page for any kind of feeds for changes. You can get an SMS, email alerts. So it will be running in your browser and it will keep on checking your monitored pages. You can get these details also. So what are things you can get? Emails, SMS, pop-ups. It's again very good. Okay. So it's a kind of a Chrome extension which is there. You can use it. Let me just give you these websites. You can just later use it. Just give me a minute. I'll post it.
I'll try to use it.
Okay. Now we can also use some of the tools for search engines information gathering automation. Now, one of the things that you can also do is uh, with respect to the test queries that you want to run, right? So we want to run it through a variety of search engines. So we normally the attackers will try to use some of the tools to run the queries so that they can start getting more information in a less amount of time, right? So what they will do is normally in case the search engines is able to from the search engines perspective, what they normally try to do is they try to identify and block bulk search queries, so which might be coming in. Like, for example, they will try to keep on monitoring that if there is a specific user who is trying to persistently execute some of the searches every second, for 4 to 5 times they have been trying to do. So they get to know that it is more like a robot trying to do. So you might have seen in Google, they try to say that, please confirm that you are not a robot. So that Newton,
Yeah.
I'm not a robot is kind of based on the activity that you're trying to do. If you're trying to rerun those same things, couple same times, right? So it's a kind of algorithm that executes that basically wants to ensure that you're not like this is not a machine or a robot. You can confirm on that. Right? So that is things. Now, a couple of tools that you can use for your search engine information gathering is I'll just show you some of the good to amount of tools. So one is you can use a Recon NG. It's again a free source Recon NG, which is a framework. So you can see it's a Renaissance modules that are there. You can, just type, get it installed. So it has a Metasploit framework. So you can see it will leverage this framework. And it's primarily, has this Metasploit framework that use. Now, if you see what are there are almost like 100 available, modules which are there in this. So you like want to perform your host and DNS enumeration or port scanning or DNS cache scooping and search engines information gathering and all. So all these kind of things that is some of the things that you would be able to very easily do. And this interface will be uh, it uses this Metasploit framework. So this is one thing that you can just spend some time and get, into this. We'll see also in this. Um, this is one thing that you can just spend some time understand that how it is being done. It's an intelligence gathering tool that is afraid that is being there. So this is one thing. So I'll just give you this link.
Reconingy, like this is primarily available in Kali Linux, right?
Yeah, this is available in Kali. Oh. Then you also have something called as a MetaGoofil. So again, this is also one of the things in Kali. You can use it MetaGoofil also. So you can see that MetaGoofil you can start using for getting the information. So if you are having Kali, yes, you can use MetaGoofil. So it will give you information about the document metadata and all of this. So you can just get if you're having Kali already installed in your machine, you can just do an apt-get
Oh, I
MetaGoofil.
don't. I have to like I have to
Yeah.
install. I think
Yeah,
my
I mean,
I
this
uninstalled my
this one
VMware.
documentation you can see here. So the steps are very easy. You can just meta -H. you can type in, it will give you the details. Like you can also use a -d for a domain. If you have the domain, then you can mention that, like for example, Microsoft.com, something like that you want to go. So these are, it's a very documentation perspective you can see, but yeah, that is again the document metadata. You can start that. It can give you the information gathering. Then you also have, okay, let me just give you this also. There are a lot of solutions out there, so I'm just listing few of the ones. Then you can also use something called as an EXIF tool. So EXIF tool is also one of the things, right? Like for example, if you're having Kali, so you can also go for EXIF tool. So let me just show you. So this is also something that you can install. So this is primarily if you want, for reviewing your file metadata, right? So you can go do an apt-get, for installing this, and then you can show, it will start showing your metadata for the different documents. There is a Windows version, Mac OS version, which is there. So you can see some of the features which it provides, different types of file formats and all this. So it basically gives all the different details about that, the file document, the size, type, and those details. That is something. This is again a good, meta information providing. We can use this tool as well. You can also use a solution like you have FOCA in case you have used it, which is your fingerprinting organizations with collected archives. So this is the documentation for FOCA. So this also, is primary to maintain to find the metadata and hidden information in the documents it scans. So these could be there on the web pages, you can use it and analyze it. So you can see that it run only on currently on Windows. So, in your Windows virtual machine or in your Windows machine, you can install it. These are some of the prerequisites it requires, right? Then it basically will ask you what is the website that you want to go to. And once you provide these details, it will scan through it and, it will extract the metadata. It will give you the metadata informations, right? So the network, the domains, metadata aspects, it will be providing all of this again, solution that you can start. Let me give you this as well.
Okay.
Then another websites which you can use it, which is the Search Digity. So here is the documentation for Search Digity. So it is primarily from Bishop Fox solution. So you can see the Search Digity. So it's the kind of, you can see the documentation for this. It is a primary attack tool of the Google Hacking Digity project. So it includes a suite of different types of tools, like for example, when we want to perform search engine information gathering using some of these websites like Google, Bing, and then you also have like some of this like Shodan, Digity and all search engine. So then that kind of time during those times, you can use this. Sometimes you want to use it for your uh, malware scanning aspects, there are third-party links which are there. You want to do malware scanning, or like for example, you want to do a passive port scanning for Google, or let's say you want to do some third-party website searching. So in those kind of scenarios, you can use the search digity. So you can use that, and you can see some documentations on that as well. And these are some tool screenshots, right? So you can see that within this there is a specific URL you can domain you can mention for Google or code search. These are the showdown Bing.
So, previously, Shodan, we have Shodan or census .io, right? Like to check the ports connectivity, like ports opening details and all. So, I'm not sure, like recently, like 1 week back, like do you have any more similar type of websites where they can do the passive port scan recon activity and give you the ports details and all?
From the ports perspective, within the machine, you're saying, or for the search engines?
From the search engines. Like I have a website or public IP, right? So like if we check the Shodan IO or like anything, they will provide us what are all the ports open there. Like previously it was open source. Now I guess it is asking us
Hmm.
to like it is now I am assuming it was paid one. So like a similar one, do you know any of the website search engines?
Yeah, like uh, search engine wise, I'm not sure, but you have these NS lookups and all, right? That can you or who am I lookups? Who is lookups that you will be using, right? So in who is lookups also you can get some of these details that you would be doing for that websites.
Okay. Mhm. Got it.
Yeah, these are some things that you can see. Some good snapshots are there in case if you want to go through it, how it looks like and all, so that you can use it. Now, these are some websites which I just shared with you. So let me just share this link with you also. Now, how do you basically go ahead and start defending against these search engines, right? Now, there could be numerous tools that you can start utilizing, right, to get all this information, right? But a lot of times this would be more of a manual effort, right? So we want to basically start automating some of these things, right? So what we can also do is, as part of this content, we can start identifying some of these, ways that I want to start doing some of these aspects, right? So there are RPA document, critical scripts or, tools which can help in executing this, and configuring them also that you can start doing it. I've not used it myself, but I've seen that there are websites or, there are not websites, but there are tools which you can start using in creating all of this as part of your automations, and you can start doing that as well. So what you need to do is there are certain key things that you need to identify, like what is some of these websites that you might be using, and what are some of the key things that you want to start doing. Like for example, you want to keep on removing the content from the Google search results, or let's say for example you want to start blocking some of the search indexing keywords, right? Or you want to block some of these or remove some of these URLs from the, sanction list of URLs. And for example, you also do something which you might have seen that even in your emails, you might be blocking the images also, so you don't allow the images to be seen. Those kind of things that you try to normally, uh, you know, get in as part of your controls that you will start doing it. So that is, you can start identifying them. Then, while you're doing this, what are some of the other things that you can also start doing, right? So one of the thing that you do is, you use something called as who is lookups. So every time, let's say, for example, you're trying to register a new domain, there might be some basic information that you are required to provide. Like, for example, the name, the organization name, the address, phone numbers, and name servers, right? Now, we have something called as an ICANN, which is your International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, right? So it is primarily tasked with the entire operation of identifying or getting your INA, which is your international, or internet assigned numbers or treaty, right? So this is primarily the one which is overseeing all your global IPs addresses, right? And this is INA is the authoritative registry for all the top level domains that you have, right? So these regional registries will be existing within them, right? So some of these registries includes like your, for example, the RIPE. So this RIPE is primarily within your European, West Asia, uh, within that it has. Then you have ARIN, which is primarily within your Canada, United States, Caribbean and North Atlantic islands that it covers. Then you have Africa, so Afrinic, so for it primarily covers Africa. Then you have LACNIC. So LACNIC basically covers your Latin America, Caribbean regions. And then you have the Asia Pacific, APNIC. That's it covers your Asia Pacific regions. So these are primarily the regional registries which are available with all the URLs, right? So what happens is, whenever you're performing who is lookups, you can use these INAs and regional registries to identify. So supposedly if you want to perform a lookup of any domain, you can start querying the INA database, right? So you can see that there is a ina.org who is you can see a specific website. Let's say for example, I have I am Calcutta or I am Calcutta.com. Okay. So the organization is VeriSign Global Registry Services. It is there. So I think not capturing it correctly. Let me just use any other website. Let's say for example, google.com. It gives you some details. So this is for VeriSign GRS it is giving you.
So, so you said that like there are well, these are like 4, 5 registries available, like the 5 registries available, right? Like RIPE, IRIN, Africa, and all. So if I am a user of India, okay, like I am sitting in India, can I register an IP, okay, with the African registry, or like is it only I can only register in the ethnic region?
No, so normally this is when you're registering your IP, right? So these are primarily what happens is these registries, regional registries are being created, which they are responsible for these responsible, right? So it is a kind of an authoritative registry that is there. So you'll have to do it with your regional registry. You cannot move it with that because that is how the it has been mentioned, right? So that is as part of the governance that has been taken care that you will not be able to move it. So these registries, what they are able to do is it's a kind of an institution that is taking care of or responsible for maintaining, what is getting and their details. So I think that is very much there from that perspective. So you would be able
So
to
like
only,
that means like these regional registries are like kind of part of INA who like reports to them and manages all the IPs and like websites or like
yeah,
all
yeah,
the IPs as internet assigned numbers associated with that region. Okay.
exactly. So even if you want to check, so like for example, so whenever you're trying to have these accounts created, like for example, if you want to create a website using GoDaddy for that matter, so you can see that when you're creating your website, you're purchasing a domain, right? So you will be asked in under which region that is something that you want to register. So that is you can use that. There are certain other links also that you can use whenever you want to do it. So it get registered for that specifically local registries. So this is one website you can use that for getting from INA website registered. There are other couple of websites that is there. You can use this also. OSZology.com. Here also you can mention, let's say Microsoft. You can see some of the details that will come in. There is one website you can use. Let me just give you. Then other websites includes here also you can mention a specific domain or an IP address. You can check this domain, for example. That's it gives you the registry details. Well, LLC. So this is another thing that you can use central ops. Then you also have domain tools. So you can also use again same website. You can just a domain that you want to mention. You can just that's it comes in the details. And then you also have a website, which I'll give you. Right, so spy on web is another thing. So I think this is has been stopped. Some of these have been there, but now it has been long time. Okay, so these are some websites which you can use. Now, it is sometimes you might have to use a combination of them just to verify the authenticity of it, right? So using more than one tool sometimes might be there because you saw that, like for example, domain tools is not having much information, right? So you can get to some of the details from central ops. Some of the website might not be showing you all of it. Sometimes using a combination of this system. You might be using it, right, for doing that. Then you also primarily just okay. Now, next is also with respect to the DNS lookups that you might do, right? So sometimes you want to capture the DNS, right? So, with respect to your details that you want to capture for the specific website. So this is the domain name systems, as you know, with respect to your DNS, which will be capturing all your hierarchical distributed name, right? So that you can give you about your machines, your services, your IPs, right? It will have your domain names, whether it is being assigned to which all entities, those aspects will come in. So these lookups normally, you will be able to uh, identify brands. So you might have to get these DNS records, the DNS server IP addresses, the host names and all for that. Now there are a couple of details within it, like for example, uh, you know, there are different the DNS record types that you might be aware. Like for example, if it is A, it will try to signify that it maps to a IPv4 address. If it is
So, how I think like how we can defend against these like how we can prevent these who is lookups and all sort of like what should be our preventive measures so that others cannot search or like find your details.
See, what you do is normally whenever you're trying, right? So first thing that you do is you try to do or perform a DNS lookups, right? So you can use some of the tools to get it, or there are some commands that you can start using for getting a lot of these. So, from attacker's point of view, if you see, they will be trying to get a maximum amount of information about a target, right? So before we want to get an effective. So the whole goal about of these DNS lookups is how we can try to get these details. Like, so you can use these details, you can start capturing these details, right? So for DNS lookups, what you'll do, you can use some tools, or you have the specific commands like DNS lookups. Primarily you can use certain uh, NS lookups and all also you can start using for testing and try to see whether you are getting these details. So based on this you can identify where exactly is your these details, and then once you identify them, what you will do is you can start building the the specific zones that you can have it. These zones could be well tested. It could be you can create a entire map for that entire domain and then try to reduce the access to them. So zone transfer is one of the ways that you can try to avoid it. Wherein what you're trying to do is you're trying to uh, have a primary server details identified, and then you can try to replicate to a secondary server also, and then you can have the mapping of them identified. You can manage the accesses to these different servers, and you can try to reduce that, right? So your domain names, you once you identify, you can identify restrict the accesses to it, or try to segregate into your primary server versus your secondary server. So those are the next steps. Once you have identified the DNS lookups using the details, you can take the mitigation steps accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see that like for example, there are a couple of ways you can start start identifying your DNS name. So sometimes you might use the online lookup tools and all. So now there are specific some of these websites that you can start using as well. Like for example, one of the common websites that you can have is the DNS checker. So DNS checker will help you in giving you these details. So you can check any specific DNS domain name system that you want. You want to check that. So let's say, for example, I want to check for McGraw-Hill-Education.com. You can search. So it gives you the open DNS and those details about it. Now here you can see that there are different types of keys which are there, right? Now, what are these keys and what does it signify? So primarily, these are the DNS record types that is there. So if you see A, it will basically correspond to the IPv4 address, right? Similarly, if you have 4 times A, it will be mapping to the IPv6 address, right? So like this, if you like, for example, if you have SOA, so it will try to indicate whether it's an alternative kind of a DNS server that you have. Similarly, if let's say, for example, if you have NS, it will say whether it's the alternative DNS server for a specific zone. Then you have, let's say, for example, CNAME, right? So CNAME is mentioning that if you are able to map an alias to this name, right? Similarly, MX might represent it for a mail server, right? So you want to provide a mail server. And, PTR, you can see it will be um, PTR primarily, supposedly if you want to have like a reverse lookup, you want to have, right? So in those kind of scenarios, you have PTR. TXT primarily is to have a generic information, right? So that there is a specific searches that you can, the DNS record types that you can also keep in for getting the search results. You can have it. So this is one thing. You can have some of these, the websites that you can use it. So one is an DNS checker is one website. Then you can also have the MX Toolbox also is the one website which you can use. So in this MX lookup tool, you have multiple things. You have an MX lookup, you have blacklist, you have a DMARC diagnostics, and then you also have a DNS lookups in this, right? So this DNS lookups is same. So let's say if you see an education.com, so you can see that it gives you these details. But here now you can see that I will not able to get the those specific record DNS record types filter. So the type, what is the type will come in, and it says you what is the meaning, what is the command that is coming in. Uh, you can see that how it shows you the details about this. You can see it shows not only this TCP lookup, you want to do it, you want to do SOA lookup, you want to trace voice lookup, test email servers and all, right? So these are some things that you can see. And then we saw another website just now, which was your central ops. It also could be useful, right? So for your DNS lookups, you can also use this. You can see the NS lookup vendors. So you can mention your domain, have your ports included. There's a couple of websites are there which you can use. And then you can also have some things installed on your machines that you can start doing. So in my command prompt,
So when we're using that centralops.net or DNS, like centralops.net, so does it cache our data like what we have searched and all, or like it's in real time it gathers the data and provide sort of.
see, normally this is at a point in time only. They don't capture because they are not keeping our information stored in and will not do it. These are very simple search online tools that you can just use it. But primarily, let's say, in case you want specifically against your whatever the searches that you have. So you can also in your command prompt have NS lookup, right? So this you might have used it also. So NSLOOKUP is where, let's say, for example, I have NSLOOKUP uh, Microsoft.com. Right, so you can see that what are the addresses that are coming in. So NSLOOKUP, you can also have it. And sometimes you want to have like a very specifically anything, right? So like that is something that you want to for whatever the specific mail servers that you want to search in. So you can also do that as well. So you can just set and in the mail server I want to have the mentor set up, and then I'm trying to do an NS lookup. Let's say I want to have into NS lookup, and I will just mention image. And so you can see very specifically I've mentioned it as a mail server specific. Yeah. So just NS lookup is not able to give you. Now I can just mention. So now what I've done is I've set the type as a mail server. So you can see the mail exchange mheducation.com .mail.prediction.outlook.com. So what it says you that this domains mail server is what is the mail server, which is education that mail.production.
Okay. Hmm.
I'll just
But
exit.
like you searched only for MX records, right? Like when I do the same search, like set a type equal to MX and mheducation.com, it is not giving me the like all the values which you are getting, only like the PDNS values I am not getting.
You're not getting this mail
Yeah.
exchange. You're not getting this, right?
No, no, I'm getting the first line, like mail exchange dot null sorry dot mail protection outlook.com. No, no, in the last result only. But if you see like which name server is other details like PDNS 85 dot
Yeah, yeah.
org dot
That you're
com,
not getting.
those details. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think that is not sure. It also depends on the whether anything is there as part of your installation, your operating system. It also may be based on that configuration. Pretty much it
Okay,
gives
so
me.
yeah, just because I just wanted to check like does the default command gives all the parameters which we are looking, or do we need to utilize any
No, I think
additional,
yeah.
you
No,
know?
I don't think you need to do anything. NSLOOKUP primarily has it gives you anything from that. So maybe you could check if there's any specific setting that you might have changed in, but pretty much you don't need anything. There's no time now.
Okay, okay, I'll check. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
So
yeah, like we can move.
I will just type in NSLOOKUP. Now I'll also try to I can also try to configure a DNS server on this Windows machine and try to test, in case if there is any changes that has happened, right? So I'll try to verify something. So let me just type in server nsvpn 1.dg.ninja. So what I'll do is I'll have this designated server. I will try to perform a designated DNS server, which is nsztm1.dg.ninja. This is a kind of a domains primary server that I will have. I will set the type as any,
Okay.
and then I will also try to do a zone transfer. So I will want to specify I want to do a zone transfer on the specific domain that is. I will take a domain that is zone transfer.me. So I'll take ls-d zone transfer. Okay. So in this, what I'm trying to do, I have tried to set up a DNS server, and this is DNS server which I have tried to do a zone transfer. So I have used my NS lookup on this zone transfer.me. Right. Now here you can see, now if I have typed in NS transfer, it is primarily this ls-d zone transfer is done. Now let's me just type in NS lookup. So the server has been remapped to an NSZ TM1 digi.ninja. So this is the server. Uh, zone transfer provided by Robinwood, part of this. So you can just open this up. So Ninja is one of the zones where zone transfer.me.
Okay. So like this
Primary.
is a open source one
Yeah,
where
yeah.
anyone can utilize this.
Yeah, anyone can utilize it. You can use it. This is again,
Sure,
for
I have to
these
try it.
purposes
Mm.
of testing it out. So this is something that we can.
Okay.
All these are like for test purposes only. We are using uh, normally. So
Okay.
this is NS lookup. You will see that you will use in Windows. Similarly, if you're using a Linux machine, you use something called as dig for performing these DNS lookups. So it is very similar to NS lookup only, but the commands in the it's are a bit different. Similarly, you have like host also in Linux that you use, so that you can perform these zone transfers. Host is also another way you can perform these DNS queries in Linux very useful. Similarly, you also have a DNS recon as one other way in Linux also, where you can use it for, in performing the zone transfer, DNS recon and then reconning. That is another way how you can go. So these are some of the ways how across your Linux machine or your Windows machine you can be doing this DNS lookups and DNS transfers, zone transfers. Okay. So I think then what we have is the next set of segments is more with respect to how you would be able to do, defend against some of these DNS lookups. So normally, if you see when you want to defend against these, DNS lookups, one thing that you want to do is this zone transfers that might be happening, right? That we have seen should be happening between all your primaries and your secondary DNS server. Right, so secondary servers can request the zone transfer from the primary server, which will try to respond to the information. And no other zone transfer request should be allowed. Primarily, you will try to check this DNS server logs and then try to identify. So you, in those kind of scenarios, you try to see, whether the alerts are being set up for any of these DNS requests and responses. And in case if there is any kind of a violation happening, then it should be stopped, as part of this violation of these models. So identifying these in the DNS logs, you identify a specific port that you can start using for your zone transfer, and then try to implement any kind of an alerts, as part of it. So yeah, so this is something there. And now after this, we have our last two segments that we want to set up, which is more on with respect to your ward dialing and ward driving. Dialing and ward driving, primarily just to identify, how you would be able to dialing and driving around an area, and so that you're able to identify any wireless networks, and what could have been, how you would be able to connect to them, and try to what are different methods, what are different protocols around them, right? So I'll do one thing. We'll take a small break, 5 to 10 minutes break. Let's take 5 to 10 minutes break. Come back, and that's the last segment that we will do. So before we, so there are also a lot of interesting areas. These are also good amount of solutions which are out there as part of your ward dialing and ward driving. Okay. So we can take a small break, 5 to 10 minutes. Let's take a quick break, and then that's the last segment of the day, day that we'll be covering. Okay. So let's take a quick 5 to 10 minutes break, come back, and then I'll cover the last segment, which is more on the ward dialing and the ward driving piece.
Yeah,
All right.
actually, I thought my Microsoft microphone is working. It's it's like it's double muting me. So yeah, we are good now.
Ah, okay. Okay, sure. Thanks. No problem. Okay, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So the last segment that we will do is we will spend some time in understanding the concepts of what is war dialing, and primarily again on the perspective of what is war driving. Okay. Now, war dialing in one sense, if you see, let me just open this. Slides kept on getting interchanged. Yeah. Yeah. So war driving in supposedly, if you know, any kind of war games or some of these movies which primarily shows, right? So when we are trying to, let's say, for example, identify and dial into some of the other machines, and we are primarily trying as part of the dialing, as the name suggests itself, we are like using a phone line. We are trying to dial all the numbers within a specific range. We're trying to identify which of them are the working machines, and then we try to connect to, right? So we try to use something like a voice over internet protocol or a VoIP kind of a thing wherein we don't require to have like a modem on the machine. So primarily we are trying to use some of a concept which is your harvesting of your phone numbers, right? So phone number harvesting, is something that we try to do. And, we try to use all some of the methods, primarily with respect to having some of the default credentials. And you see that there is a kind of a range that you see, it has a prefix numbers that it has, and the last is the extensions that keeps on getting changed for the people. So if you know this kind of range, then you primarily can change this extensions increment, and then you can try to get connected to people, right? So that is primarily how you do. And there are the same ways, I try to identify first, which of these phone numbers are trying to respond, so normally we use or what dialing is primarily we use some kind of software. We can you can just try to dial the number and see whether there's a response that is coming, so you know which of them are a valid phone number out of all the range of numbers that you have. And then, you try to, second aspect is once you have identified a valid list, then you try to gain access to this machine. So you all this, we try to basically use for brute force and all to try to identify and try to guess. Now, in war dialing also, there are some of the tools which are widely available, so they primarily run in some of these machines and they can be using as a war dialing tools, right? So some of the tools that you can see which primarily are available and, can serve. So we'll show you some of these tools. Like one of the tool that you have is, let me just open my screen. Let me just open. So you have Rapid Sevens Warworks, right? So you currently it was, you can see that it has some of these aspects. So Warworks is one of the freeware, solution which is there, where it had a kind of an advantage of, being open source and those kind of things, but some disadvantages was were available with respect to password cracking support was not there, or difficult installations and those aspects was there. So you can see that you can configure a new provider creator and start making the calls. So it's a kind of a free Warbox database. You can start initializing. These are the different steps. You can start using this. So that is one solution that you can see. Then you also have another solution, which is your iWord. So iWord dialer is also one of the solutions, and intelligent word dialer you can see. So here also you can see some of these advantages. Again, a freeware which is available. So it's a word dialing tool, security tool. So you want to use across the telephone numbers. So these are some of the features you can see. Terminal window, banner detection recording, tone location, random sequencing dialing, keystroke marking, right? So a blacklist of all the phone numbers that you never dial, you know, or it's so these are some of the command line arguments that you can see. And it is again one of the solution that could be useful. What for dialing. Then you also have a solution. This was earlier available. I don't think this might be there now. Let me just see. So tone lock is a DOS-based command which was there very earlier. In the old days, it used to be there. So it's again DOS-based, and it required a DOS-based commands and all. Right? So you can see that it is primarily that's a tone locator, which is primarily will try to dial numbers and will try to look for some kind of tone. So this was primarily with respect to each of the numbers had a specific tone, right? So using that, this tone locator would be using, so it's a DOS commands are there within this tone lock, which was being used as a, uh, so the PBX and the human voice sound, the line disconnection and all. So those kind of features it had. Right. Then you also had another solution, which is your THC scan. So it's a word dialer again. So you can see that it works against DOS, Windows 95, right? So it is primarily also being used as a, so it supports some of these things like a data bank support, automated tone, carrier VMB scanning. So these are different types of tools that are available that it supports. TSC scan is also one solution which is there. Then like this, you have another solution. Which is also available in the GIS websites, which has been recommended. So you have something called as a phone sweep, right? So phone sweep is also very, acts as, kind of a war dialer. So phone sweep primarily got introduced somewhere in 1998, and this was the commercially available, first commercially available war dialer that you can see. And, phone sweep was able to, have a kind of initial telephone line scanner to try to have that program defined within it that was able to identify some of the illegal apps and all, right? So it's again, it was the freeware which was there available initially, and it also had a freeware and connections with some of the other free dialers like Tone Lock and TXC Scan. So these are some of the freewares which are for dialing software solutions which are available. Okay. Now, one key concern primarily with respect to identifying a word dialing softwares, is usually the cost and the tool functionality, because primarily if it is only running on the absolute operating systems and all, or if it is open source. So those kind of things is there. So you can use some of these, there. And then there are other word dialing solutions which are also out there, the latest ones which you can start using. Some of these word dialing solutions, the hackers would be using it for exploiting these vulnerabilities, right? So solutions are there as part of word dialing, which over the years have been, um, has been used by the hackers over and over again, and they have also basically gone through different types of changes, right? So um, different, traditionally it has been there, and you have seen that. So yeah, I mean, these were some of the ones which are there. There you can just check for a few of the ones which are also available as the ones. And so you have, like, for example, iWord now, which is there, or the ones which I was showing you, a couple of them, which are also still popular. Now, how do you defend against this war dialing, right? So defending against war dialing is also uh, very important. So, one thing is, how the solutions will be there to do the war dialing, but how do you start defending against the war dialing? So first thing that you do is you try to first create a inventory of all your landlines. Let me start sharing my screen. So how do you start defending against your war dialing solution? So one is, first thing that you do to protect against from war dialing is to know what your phone lines, right? So what you do is you try to create a full inventory of all your landlines, so creating that full inventory is something important. All your modems and all those kind of things that you have. So inventory, uh, creating that inventory is very much there. And then you identify, if there is any kind of lines which are currently not in use and all, then try to get a decommission. Then second thing that you do is you try to do some kind of a training to your people. So you try to say that, rather than we should not keep on uh, you know, uh, disclosing or distributing this phone numbers and all. Try to avoid from mails or social medias and all, so that social engineers should not be able to get this information very easily. Third thing that you can just mention is, try to, you know, when you're trying to register your domain, try to avoid add your phone numbers and all, right? So when you try to add a working phone number, you can see that, this is something that could be easily diagnosed. Like as I mentioned, the initial few numbers are something that might be remaining same, and the last four are the extensions that might be there. So that is another way that you do. Uh, the fourth way that you do is you try to have some kind of a pattern or security established in the VoIPs also. Like for example, you should not be getting it connected directly to any phone number. You just mention, like it has to be done by an operator. So the operator can assist in reconnecting. So supposedly if there is a war dialing that's happening, then what happens is the operator can avoid that, they will not be able to reconnect or redirect it. So there is only one number that will be accessible for everyone externally, right? Within the organization, people can still connect it to to the extensions, but then at least the external hackers will not be able to do. So that is one thing that you can also do. You can also do these kind of uh, tag some numbers which might be offensive, or try to have these kind of restrictions or security controls that you can start putting in these uh, line numbers also. Then you can also try to ensure, uh, any kind of an out of bound access that is happening. So, for example, external numbers and all that you want, right, will require some kind of a PIN with some kind of a verification so that no default credentials are there. So this is something that gets established when you're setting up your account in your dialer, your phone dialers. So what happens is now you might have seen that these are getting configured against your profile. So sometimes it happens that the phone numbers, the logins that you have in your machines are your numbers gets configured based on that, right? So because of hot desking as a concept, you might be seeing that what happens is, your machine might not be same. So the extensions also you don't want to keep it same. So you might try to log out and log in to a specific number that is connected to your machine, right? So those kind of multi-factor authentication and specific, you know, uh, specific logins that you might have that can help you in reducing these kind of risk, with respect to what kind of security controls that we can do. Then another thing that you can do is keep on testing, over and again. So you have some simulations that you try to execute. You try to verify whether the necessary controls are working. So keep on get a word dialer and then try to get the appropriate permission and see whether these scenarios are something has any kind of a vulnerabilities in your entire setup. So these vulnerabilities that you can identify will help you to mitigate them, and you can make those necessary adjustments, necessary settings, and then you can keep on revisiting again them right over again. So war dialing is something is again through your uh, dialers and all you would be able to identify all of it, and you can just you should be able to try to stop all of these from happening. Okay.
Okay.
The same goes with your ward driving also. So ward driving primarily is now with respect to your, the wireless networks that would be there, right? So your wireless networks primarily started getting introduced by IEEE's 802 family, 802.11 IEEE standards, where you each of them have a specific things, right? So for example, as IEEE standards started getting modified based on the speeds and the frequency at which it was being defined, right? So for example, 802.11 primarily mentions up to speed of 1 to 2 Mbps, right? And a frequency of 2.4 gigahertz, right? Then 802.11a mentions up to 54 Mbps, and then it mentions up to 5 gigahertz. So again, this is something that you might have seen with respect to your Wi-Fi's. Primarily you will see that 5 gigahertz which might be using. Then you have 802.11b, which mentions up to 11 Mbps with a 2.4 gigahertz frequency. 802.11g mentions up to 54 Mbps with a 2.4 gigahertz frequency. You have 802.11n, which mentions up to 600 Mbps with a 2.4 or a 5 gigahertz frequency, right? So these are the different, each of these frequencies contains some specifically defined operating channels, right? So like, for example, you have the 2.4 gigahertz, which are there, right? So you have somewhere around 14 available channels. Most of the countries, there would be 14 channels that would be available. And primarily there are certain tools that you can use for checking what is your speed connections and all. Like for example, you have speed your test and all, so that can give you details about which is the channels that are being used in your area, in case if there is a congested channel and all. So it kind of gives you those kind of details. But sometimes what happens is this is also where your the attackers, the hackers and all the attackers might be trying to, trying to compromise or trying to, take help of these kind of details, or will try to exploit these kind of details that you might be having. Right. Now, within this, there are certain kind of wireless security standards that you need to understand. I think some of these you might be already aware of. The first such standard is the WEP, which is your wired equivalent privacy standard. So WEP primarily says that when we are using a WEP, there is a network key or a passphrase that we will be having that each of these class. So you have a passphrase or a common network key. So each of these client need to provide a kind of a common network key or a passphrase so that they are able to connect to these access points. And this same passphrase will be useful for encrypting this information, right? So they use something, an algorithm, which is your RC4 algorithm. So this RC4 algorithm would be useful. So, so now one of the weakness which is there in this entire wired equivalent privacy WEP protocol is primarily there could be some kind of a weakness with respect to vector generations, right? Which is something which is predictable by the attacker, right? So our WEP key can be cracked even though if you have enough traffic and that has been captured, right? So there are certain tools that we will see now, as we go further of how they would be using and they would be able to capture this, right? So WP is one protocol or standard that you can see. Then you also have the WPA and WPA2, which is primarily your Wi-Fi protected access. So, some of these challenges which were there in WEP have been resolved by the Wi-Fi protected access. So it uses a advanced encryption standard and AES standard, which is an advanced encryption standard as its encryption algorithm. And it is much complicated as compared to your RC4 algorithm, which is using WEP. So we will be using an authentication server when we will be implementing the enterprise-wide mode, right? So WPA password identification, or when you try to diagnose what is the WPA password, it might be not so easy. So you will have to the attacker might have to start capturing the network traffic. They would have to try to employ some kind of an offline password cracking tool and password dictionary tools, right? So that, like, for example, you have a tool called as Revo, right? So that could also be utilized for doing that. Then now WPA2, after that we have now a WPA3, which is a kind of an advanced of WPA, next to a level of our WPA2. So this got, getting replaced your WPA, replacing your WPA2, right? So the features, some of this, which is uh, you know, uh, some of the protection that they do, which was getting lacking in the WPA, like for WPA2, which was like brute force protection and all, which is something that is there. So there is a new key exchange protocol that has come in. So because of which, WPA3 is, is implemented, is improved version of a WPA2. Within this, there are different types of authentication that you can start using. So for one kind of authentication that you have is an WPA, WEP open system authentication. So primarily here in this WEP open system authentication, there is no actual authentication that is happening. And we will be keeping the network open to use by everyone, right? So there is no security in this case. If you see, this is a very highly vulnerable scenario. In the second aspect, you see a WEP shared key authentication. So there is a key that is getting shared, right? So WEP key would be used to encrypt the response, right? And we will be sending it by the we will be using for sending it over by your access point. And once you have this access point, what the access point will do is they will try to decrypt the response and will check if this message is matching the text that was originally being sent. Right. So that is a shared key authentication that you have. Then you have the WPA PSK, which is your pre-shared key, which is your the Wi-Fi protected pre-shared key access pre-shared key, where we are using a pre-shared key. So this pre-shared key would be useful for creating the encryption keys. We can use it for protecting the entire session. So normally in your home and in a small office kind of setup books and all, normally you'll see the WPA PSK is the most preferred way in which is we use. Then we also have the WPA Enterprise, right? So this is like for small setups, but WPA Enterprise is more useful when it comes to your organization, large network setups and all. So what we have is we have a separate authentication server. Like for example, you have a remote authentication server that would be there. So every time the new client is trying to authenticate, so they would be done with this, or the remote authentication dialing server. So that would be useful. So that is, I mean, these are the other kind of an encryption type that you have. Then you can sometimes also use a something called as a sniffing tool, right? Now, so sniffing is primarily, as the name suggests, you want to, just like you have the sniffer dogs, right? So they would be sniffing and they would be trying to identify. So the sniffing tool primarily will try to capture or analyze all the captures that is action obtained by all the tools whenever trying to do the war driving. And you can see that certain kind of tools which might be commonly being used. So one of that tool is like you have Wireshark. Wireshark is primarily one of the tool that you can see. So different, things which I have. Similarly, you can have a TCP dump. You can have OmniPeak. You have Network Miner. So let me just show them one by one. So Wireshark has been available. There are a lot of trainings and a lot of things which are available. Wireshark certified network analyst, right? So Wireshark is very common as part of a scripting tool perspective. You can see that you have something which is your TCP dump. You can use that tcpdump.org as well. So it's a command line packet analyzer that will be useful for your network traffic capture. Then you also have OmniPeak, which I was mentioning, right? So it helps you to check your network. It's a network analyzer again, which is useful. You can use this. Then you also have network miner. So network miner is also quite popular. It's an open source network forensics tool that you can use for that. So if you're using Linux, there are multiple tools which you can start using. So one such tool is like, for example, you have an Airmon. So Airmon again under the Kali's setup, you can use it. The Kali Linux has Airmon which can switch your the wireless card and can try to monitor it remotely. So that is one thing that you can use. You have a solution called as a Kismet, which is again a quite popular one. So Kismet, you can just use it for wireless network and device detection. It will help you to monitor your entire infrastructure. You can start using it for any kind of rogue access points or clients where we are not expecting any kind of the company's access points and all. So any kind of surrounding wireless devices like clients access points and bridges it tries to it supports that. Then encryption, which it uses, it supports WEP WPF. So you see it's a sniffer that we are using, right? Then the packet statistics are being captured very clearly, so you can see the release and nightly statistics as part of it. So the hardware, the development aspects is being captured very clearly. Now, another advantage that you can start using Kismet is, for example, you want to run passive, traffic, sniffing traffic across your networks, and you want to try to extract all the required information, right? So that is something that you can use. And under your Linux projects, you can see, you can get your, Kismet setup done, and then you can start using that also. It helps you to identify all the wireless networks and all very easily on the. So Kismet is also quite popular. Then in our Windows machine perspective, we have something called as Insider. So Insider is, it defeats. So you can see Insider across my Windows setups. So it primarily, gives a list of all the identified wireless networks that is there. You can see that how it works. So here's a quick video. You can just check how it works. And you can just play it for you.
Networks. This main table is good. It has some nice overview information like signal, what channel you're on, security type. If you hover over the security icon, it'll tell you exactly what security that is. You want to make sure you have WPA2 and not just WPA or WEP. Also show you your max rate. Down here at the bottom, we have good networks graphs, which will show you visually your signal strength and also what channel you're on. You can see I'm on channel 1, and over here in 5 gigahertz, I'm on channel 36 as what's called the primary for my 20 megahertz, and it's an 80 megahertz wide channel. So it has a pretty high data rate because of the 80 megahertz wide channel. Up here back on the table, we can look at these binoculars, and you can click in the binoculars to drill down to look at each access point that's on your network. You can drill down even farther from that and get into a great little sidebar that has all the configuration details that you need, including your signal strength, more details on your channel configuration, security, and the capabilities of that radio as well. You'll notice that there's a couple hidden networks that are on my access point. These are how the Eero mesh system works in the back end. Some other useful features of Insider, if you click over here on devices, this will basically scan on the local area network side of your Wi-Fi or your internet to see what devices you have connected. And this will show wired and wireless devices. It'll also try to figure out what type of device that is. So my Apple TV, it automatically figures out this Apple TV. Most phones, Apple TVs, Chromecast, things like that, it automatically figure out what they are. Also, if you go here to channels, it'll show you the Wi-Fi utilization of each channel if it's available. This isn't always available. Some APs don't broadcast it. My access point, the Eeros, don't broadcast it, so I don't know what the Wi-Fi utilization is for those access points. But if it does show up, it's really useful because you can see which channels are very busy and which channels are not busy. The dashboard up here on the top is also great. Insider will do analysis on the back end and give you some pointers about your network. For example, it says that my security is good, but my HP printer that is connected to my network is also broadcasting its own network, and so you can connect directly to that printer, but it's connected to my network as well, so that's a security risk. If you click the more details and instructions, it'll take you to a web page that will have more information about that and some options of how you can go and find the specific directions to fix it for your printer. All right, that's just a quick overview of Insider and some ways that you can get the information that you need about your network and your neighboring networks to help you fix slow Wi-Fi. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was just like a quick demo of this tool. So yeah, I mean, like this resources, like you can use it. In addition to this, you can also use some of the other tools which are out there also that are also very good. Like for example, you have in the Linux kind of set of side, you have an aircrack. So this aircrack primarily is also useful for cracking the WEP, WPA, PSP keys, So it has a kind of different tools in this. You can check the source code repository. Different packages are there in this aircraft, and also different documentations have been captured in this. CAPR graph, CPR graph, these are some of the things. Then you also have a NetStumbler. The NetStumbler is also, you can download it. It's a Windows tool that you can use for, active scanning. That is, you can use it. I showed you about Reaver. eSleep is also on the Linux side of things. You have eSleep. So it also does a similar kind of an activity to identify, the the Leap networks and all, right? So Leap is primarily nothing but your lightweight extensible authentication protocol from Cisco. So this is primarily identifying those networks. It has a good capability on that. Then there are certain other solutions which are out there, like you have a Ghost Sniffer, Ghost Fisher, which is again there on the Kali side of things, Linux side of things. Then you have Metasploit that we saw. Offset, Metasploit is, within Metasploit kind of things. It will be able to give you a free access points, capture the password, harvest the data and all. It will give you those details. You can also use a free source, which is like EasyCreds. This is a documentation for EasyCreds, so you can use this also. So it has all the details on EasyCreds, so you can see documentation for this as well. There are a lot of free videos and documentations available for this also. Then you also have something on the Bluetooth side of things. So you have something called as a Blue Snarfer under Kali's packages. So you for wireless attacks for Bluetooth devices. So it tries to perform blue snuffing attacks, primarily with respect to your Bluetooths. You have Blue Snuffer. There are sometimes specific dictionary attacks that you can happen, right? So you also have something called as cow patty that basically, performs dictionary attacks on any specific WPA, WPA2, PSK networks on that, so you can see if we are auditing the WPA, PSK networks, we can try to use this tool to identify the weak paraphrases. Then we also have some of the key cracking perspective solutions which might be using. So like, for example, you use the pirate and all, right? So some of these are useful, you can use it. Now, some of the general purpose information gathering tools are also there, which you can use. Like, for example, there are a lot of hundreds of tools which could be there, So some of the tools, you can use it and you can start using, have these. So one such solution which is, is there is Let me just show it to you. So you have this solution Maltigo, right? So Maltigo is primarily, you can see investigating, identifying your investigations that you would be using. So you have Maltigo Search, Maltigo Monitor, Maltigo Graph, right? The single platform that you can use for monitoring all your social media as well. It it gives you an entire network map, so about all your websites and all. So you can just use some of these resources and try to go to Maltico Academy and all. So there's a lot of good content which is there. So Maltico, Malformity Labs
Yeah.
and all. So a lot of these documentations are there that you can use it. Then yeah, I think we discussed about Shodan also. Shodan is also a good online, has a lot of good online resources that you can start using uh, content-wise to understand how it works. Any of your, it can start indexing your web cameras or, sensors, your printers and all, right? So it can start using a lot of that. You want to monitor, you want to start monitoring it. So you can just sign it up and gets connected network monitoring and all those kind of things is something that you can have them. So social media websites and all you can see. Here you can see. You can have a create account for that, a free account, and then start using. That is there. Then there are certain online tools which attackers normally interested in launching physical attacks. So there are certain maps websites like you have Google Maps, Bing Maps, City Mappers. So a lot of these mapping solutions are also being useful, right? So that is there. Then you also have uh, getting the physical addresses and ownerships information. So you can also use a website like Spokio. So using Spokio also what you can do, you can get a lot of this information, the zip codes, the subject, a lot of records, all of it that you can start identifying. So just enter a name, you can see the John Smith, like this you just mention and then you can search. So let's say for example, I mentioned Shadnik Radik and so within them they don't have anything is committed to privacy, so will not be notified of your search. So it primarily, in case if there is any physical address and anything that you want for, obviously, as I was mentioning, that you want to get anything or for a specific search, let's say, for example, uh, not the email perspective. So you can just have a specific location or anything that you want. Like say, for example, I have, Hamilton Street or something. So it's not a search with respect to name. It is more with respect to an email. Also, you can have it based on phone number or address information, and you can just. I think it's not giving those details, but you can see address search for. So it will search through the public records, property records. You need to create a login, I guess. You can just use it. You also have some of these other websites also you can look into. Like for example, you have this buckets gray hat warfare also. So this you can use for, over some things which are being exposed over my CSPs, right? AWS Azure, Blob Storage, AWS S3, GCP Cloud Storage, right? So what are the on this bucket specifically, which are nothing but your object storages that you have, right? So in those also you want to identify specifically. So these are like couple of things that, some of these solutions which are out there, the general purpose information gathering tools also. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, I think these were something, is there as part of my overall chapter with respect to information gathering. So I'll take a pause just to see if there's any questions. Yes.
No, I under war driving, because there are multiple authentication methods or like security standards, right? Like, so if possible, like give me, like if you have anything surrounding that, that will be helpful, like reading material that will be more helpful, because to be frank, I don't have much information or much knowledge on those like this.
So what I'm going to do is I'll just what I'm share with after just like yesterday what I did, I will share with you a couple of references that you can start looking into a consolidation that we have seen, right? So I will share this with you so you can look into these things, this list, entire list which I have. These are these different tools and techniques. I showed you a couple of them that you can use. If you want any other specific material, then I will share you some of the ones which I have from the GIAC's perspective also, from information assurance perspective. I'll share those content with you. You can just go through it and read through it. That will give you some additional information as well.
Okay, okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think what I'll do is we can close it now from here. If there is no questions, I'll share this content and the additional materials I'll share with you. We have last 30 minutes left, so you can utilize this time to go through them. And the second thing is, another thing is, so just like today, what we'll do is we'll have like a quick, like a quick um, knowledge check kind of thing for tomorrow. So tomorrow what we will do is we will be covering the next area, which is more with respect to scanning, vulnerability identification perspective, enumeration perspective, and there, these are things. But I think today's session you saw that there are so many tools. I showed you some of these, engines and all, which actually plays a very there's so much open solutions in so many ways, which these attackers they try to exploit. So, this is primarily the area where, as part of the information gathering, you will be seeing that they would be using not only one of them, but a combination of these tools. So, having them aware and then trying to, check these across, including these as part of your information gathering steps is something that is there so that you know that you're not open to any kind of these vulnerabilities. Yeah. So yeah, I think so then what we can do is we can wrap up for today. And then tomorrow I will take up the scanning enumeration. Again, a very interesting area, very lot of things that we'll be looking into. With respect to network mapping, both scanning, vulnerability identification perspectives, we will look into some of those aspects and we'll also explain some of the protocols, some of the best practices and, some of the different ways of how we are able to use some of these, methods and tools for using it for, network mapping, port scanning, as well as vulnerability identification perspective.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So thanks. I will wrap up now. You can just utilize this remaining time to just go to these contents. I'll share it right away. And you can ask me any questions tomorrow in tomorrow's session. All
Okay,
right.
sure. Yeah, I'll
Thank
do that.
you. Thanks, Adik. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Yeah.
Enjoy. Bye.
You too. Have a good night. Bye.
Thanks.
Yes.